Okay, so hopefully everyone can clearly see the topic for discussion today. And the topic for discussion is after USA destroys Iran, should Americans be worried about another September 9/11 event in the United States? And where and when? Possible locations? And then it has a list of possible locations that maybe we should be worried about. You know, it's better to prevent things, right? If you can prevent something, right? I'm sure a lot of Central Intelligence Agency agents, Central Intelligence Agency agents, CIA agents. I'm sure a lot of CIA agents really could have wished they could have prevented 9/11, right? I'm sure a lot of people wish they could have prevented 9/11, especially CIA agents, Central Intelligence Agency agents, probably wish they could have prevented 9/11. I don't know about CSIS, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, because Canada has their own version of the CIA, which is the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. I don't know if they cared about preventing 9/11, but of course, the CIA. Well, I guess you can't really assume that the American CIA would want to have prevented 9/11 anyways, but let's give them a benefit of the doubt and let's assume that they did want to prevent 9/11. Obviously, it's better to prevent disasters from happening. So let me get back to finish reading the what it says. So sorry, I got sidetracked there. After USA destroys Iran, should Americans be worried about another September 9/11 event in the United States, and where and when? Possible locations. Then it says sporting events, concerts, government buildings, police stations, Hollywood parties, super random places, water supply, environmental, and cyber attacks. So, of course, the American CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, CSIS, which is the Canadian version, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service, which, by the way, the guy in the picture, well, obviously, you know Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. I'm sure most people know that the guy in the above picture is the Prime Minister of Canada, Canadian Prime Minister, French Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. And then the guy in the bottom picture, that is the CSIS, the guy, the head of CSIS. He's the head of the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. I think his name is Dan. I think his name is Dan Rogers. I'm not sure. So, anyways, the guy in the bottom is the head of the CSIS agency, the Canadian Security Intelligence Service agency. So, of course, Canada has their own version of the CIA, which is the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. And there's probably like CSIS agents all over the United States right now. I mean, there's probably Canadian Security Intelligence Service agents all across the United States, probably helping the Americans. I hope. I mean, I can't say for sure. I'm not a CSIS agent. I don't work for CSIS, but I hope that our Canada's CSIS, Canadian Security Intelligence Service, I hope they're helping Americans, right? I mean, Americans are supposed to be our allies, so I hope if there are Canadian Security Intelligence Service agents across America, I hope that those CSIS agents, those Canadian Security Intelligence Service agents, I hope they're helping Americans. I mean, right? I mean, aren't we supposed to be allies with the United States? So I don't know. I don't know what they're doing, but I'm sure there must be. I mean, that's their job, right? Isn't there? I don't work for CSIS, so I'm asking a question. I'm asking a question. It isn't the job of CSIS supposed to help Americans, since apparently Americans are supposed to be Canada's allies, right? So I don't know. What are the CSIS agents in the United States doing? What are the Canadian Security Intelligence Service agents in the United States? What are they doing right now? What are these Canadian operatives doing in the United States, right? But I'm sure that they're all over the United States. I'm sure there are Canadian operatives all over the United States. Well, what are they doing? That's the good question. So Are they helping Americans? I hope they're helping Americans. I can't say for sure because I don't work for CSIS. I don't work for the Canadian Security Intelligence Service. And I also don't work for the FSB, obviously, which is Russia's version, which is the Federalnaya Sluzhba Bezopasnosti of the Kremlin. I don't work for the Federalnaya Sluzhba Bezopasnosti. I don't work for them. And I don't work for the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency. I don't work for CSIS. And I don't work for the FSB. And I definitely don't work for the Communist Party of China, the CCP, either. So, so this is the Planet Saturn Club. The gist of the channel, I'm just going to go into what the purpose of the channel is. The purpose of the channel is to create a community of science minded people who want to protect Mother Earth, who want to try to uh, change our future for the better and create a better future for Mother Earth. The Planet Saturn Club is a group of science-minded, science-interested people who want to bring humanity into space, who want to bring us maybe to Mars or maybe to one of the moons of planet Saturn, because apparently one of the moons of planet Saturn could actually be more habitable to live on than Mars, apparently, according to Scientific American magazine. So, according to Scientific American magazine, there are several moons. There are moons that orbit planet Saturn. And these moons that orbit planet Saturn are warmed. They are warmed by the gravitational pull of planet Saturn. So it's actually possible that one of these moons that orbit planet Saturn could be more habitable for human life than Mars. We don't know for sure, but it's a theory at this point, but it could turn out to be right, right? And so scientists are currently exploring the possibility of sending a colony of humans to live on one of the moons that orbit planet Saturn. Hence the Planet Saturn Club. There could potentially be in the future a whole colony of humans that live on one of the moons that orbit planet Saturn. Wouldn't that be really cool? You'd be living on one of the moons that orbit planet Saturn, and planet Saturn would if planet Saturn keeps the moons warm because of the gravitational pull of planet Saturn. The moons are generally better temperature. They're good temperatures to sustain human life, right? Because you can't have a planet that's too hot. You can't have a planet that's too. You can't have a planet that's too hot. You can't have a planet that's too cold, right? You can't have a planet that's too hot. You can't have a planet that's too cold. The planet needs to be just right temperature. And apparently, several of the moons that orbit planet Saturn could potentially be more habitable to live on and be better suited for human life than even Mars. So we don't know for sure yet. It's just a theory at this point, but it could turn out to be true, right? So this is the purpose of the Planet Saturn Club in general, generally speaking, but there's many purposes of the Planet Saturn Club, right? We discuss politics, we discuss science, we discuss technology, we discuss mathematics. It's generally speaking, we're a club of people that get together, the Planet Saturn Club, and we try to improve life on Earth. We try to protect Mother Earth, protect the planet. We discuss science and politics and etc. and all types of stuff. So, back to the topic of this meme. The topic of this meme is: are Americans worried? Should the United States be worried about retaliation from Iran, or even countries that support Iran? Because of course, Turkey apparently is a longtime ally of Iran. Russia is an ally of Iran. China is an ally of Iran. So, it's possible also in the name of Iran that Russia could try to get revenge. China could try to get revenge, right? Turkey could try to get revenge. So it's kind of broad. And there are, of course, a lot of Canadians who are on the side of Iran. There's a lot of Iranian Canadians. So, you know, obviously they're not happy with what is happening to Iran right now. So, how do the Iranian Canadians feel? You know, there's also Iranian Americans, of course. There's a lot of Iranian Americans that live in the United States. What if they try to get revenge? What if they try to retaliate in the name of Iran, right? So there's a lot of possibilities. It's always good. It's better to be safe than sorry. It's good to take precautions. And ultimately speaking, I mean, after 9/11, you don't want to take chances right after 9/11. So it's good to have a discussion about these things. It's good to be proactive because like I was trying to say at the beginning of the video of the live stream, obviously the CIA, the Central Intelligence Agency, probably wish they could have prevented 9/11, right? So So anyone who's now coming in the live stream, welcome. Welcome to the live stream. I appreciate everyone who likes and subscribes to the channel. Thank you so much. I appreciate everyone. I also appreciate people who leave comments and leave their opinion. And I'm very curious to know what people's opinion is on this topic. So please feel free to leave your opinion about this topic. And if anyone has any questions or would like to if anyone has any questions or would like to leave comments and leave their opinions, I'd be happy to discuss your opinions. I'd be happy to talk about the topic with you, to discuss the topic with you. So if anyone's currently in the live stream, are you worried about potential retaliation from Iran? Like Iranian Americans, Iranian Canadians, Russians, even Russian Iranians, Russians in general, because Russia obviously is a big supporter of Iran. Are you worried about retaliation from Iranians, from Iran? Are you worried about retaliations from Iranian Americans? Are you worried about retaliation from Russians, Chinese, right? The supporters of Iran, Turkey, the countries that support Iran. So I am worried about BRICS. So BRICS is basically Russia's version of NATO, to put it like, I mean, this is my interpretation of BRICS. Okay, so BRICS is Russia's version of NATO, right? NATO is all of these European countries that kind of gang up on Russia, kind of a bit. And then Russia said, okay, well, if you're going to make all these countries from the West gang up on Russia, Russia's going to make a bunch of Eastern countries, put them together. Eastern, northern countries, right? Whichever countries are anti-West, kind of not necessarily anti-West, but just that doesn't buy into the Western propaganda, right? So BRICS, which is the version of NATO, BRICS, which is Russia's version of NATO. BRICS stands for Brazil, Russia, India, and then I think China, and is it South Africa? I think BRICS. I always want to say Korea, but for some reason, I'm pretty sure North Korea is in BRICS. I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure on that one. I'm not sure, but I mean, when you say BRICS, right? BRICS, it sounds like there's a K in there, and you would think that North Korea, oh, well, no, sorry, N. Well, Korea, I guess if you just call it Korea and not North Korea, then it would be part of BRICS, right? I don't know. So that's the thing. Like, obviously North Korea is an ally of Russia. Um, so you would just assume that North Korea would be in BRICS, but I'm not 100% sure on that one because when I looked up the definition of BRICS, I don't remember seeing North Korea. I think they said that they were going to try to recruit North Korea to BRICS, but I'm not sure if North Korea is officially in BRICS yet. But basically, I do know that stands for Brazil, Russia, India, China, and South Africa. So, so BRICS obviously is the counterpart to NATO, um, and NATO, of course, is the European front, the European fighting force against Russia, against China, etc. And so BRICS, I'm worried about BRICS to be honest, because um, Iran is just one ally of BRICS. Oh, wait a minute. Sorry, when I said BRICS, I'm not sure. So someone should look at this up again. Maybe got confused. I'm pretty sure BRICS, I'm pretty sure the I in BRICS is India, Brazil, Russia, India, China, and then South Africa. But I might be wrong actually. Maybe the I is Iran. Anyways, BRICS is big. It's not just like BRICS is big. It includes many countries. It's not just the BRICS abbreviation. It includes other countries. So yeah, Iran and India could be in BRICS actually together as well. But I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure the initial I in BRICS was initially for India. Although now that I think about it, maybe it was for Iran. But anyways, whatever. They're all in BRICS anyways. Whatever the case. So. Obviously, Iran is on the side of Russia. Russia's on the side of Iran. China's on the side of Iran. So, so Canada, right? Obviously, Canada has a special relationship with the United States. It's really topsy-turvy because, you know, really by default, the definition of a Canadian is kind of anti-American in that sense because, Canada was founded on the fact that Canada beat the United States in the War of 1812. So to be Canadian is to by default be anti-American in a sense, right? When you think about it, at least that's my interpretation. However, of course, Canada and the United States share more values, really, when you think about it. I mean, we have much more in common with the United States, Canada, than we do with the Middle East, I think, right? So, for example, Canadian culture, we watch a lot of American TV shows. We know Canadian culture has cheeseburgers and Diet Coke, and Canadian culture has football and sporting events. A lot of the stuff that Americans like to do, and beer, drinking beer. So Canada and the United States share a lot of cultural significance, a lot of cultural values. We also speak English. We both speak English. But also, there is a side to Canada which is very pro Canada, Canadian patriotic, very patriotic to Canada, and that side of Canada is very anti-American. So I mean, I'm not going to sit here and just say, "Oh, all Canadians are nice." I'm not going to sit here and say, "Oh, all Canadians are anti-American." I'm not going to sit here and say all Canadians are pro-American. I can't say that. But obviously, I'm just telling you the truth that there are Canadians that love the United States and there are also Canadians that don't like the United States. And that's just a fact. Like you can't just say Canada is all one way or the other, right? And that's why it's really hard when I see it's really hard for I think even Canadians to try to say that we're allies of the United States. I think that Canada is not really allies of the United States. I feel like maybe we just work with the United States, but to say that we're allies of the United States, I don't agree with that because I don't see it. I don't see Canada being allies of the United States. I constantly see Canadians talking bad about Americans. I constantly see Canadians talking bad about Americans behind their backs. So is that allies? Is it, when you see a bunch of Canadians talking behind Americans' backs, is that allies? Is that something that your allies do? Is that really something that your allies would do? Talk behind your back? So when the United States and Canada try to claim that they're allies, but then you see a bunch of Canadians going talking behind Americans' backs, making plans behind Americans' backs, it's like how is that ally behavior? Is that the behavior of a real ally? Right? So, it's just being real. It's just being real about this situation that, there's a lot of Canadians that actually don't support the United States. A lot of Canadians are they support Russia, they support China. A lot of Canadians support China actually. You'd be surprised. A lot of Canadians support China. There are Canadians that support Russia. There's the Canadians that support Iran. So, you know, you can't just blanket the whole country and just say, oh, that this country's one way or the other, 100%. No, there's a lot of different people in Canada. And I think that there's more people, to be honest. If you had to guess, I would say that there's more Canadians that are anti-American than there are Canadians that are pro-American. So, because Canada is so diverse. I mean, Canada, there's so much. Canada has a big influence from China. Canada has a big influence from Russia. Canada has a big influence from India. Canada has a big influence from uh, Mexico. So, I mean, America has an influence on Canada, but you know, but then we also have Russia, China, Iran, right? So, just this is just the truth. This is just really how Canada really is. I mean, it doesn't mean that I don't think that. No, like I can't even say that. I mean, I can't even say that Canadians are allies of the United States. I can't really say that. And I don't think it's correct for people to say that the United States and Canada are allies. I really don't because honestly, if there were another war, if there were another war, I don't really see that happening. I wouldn't say that. I wouldn't think that a Canada would join in America's side if there was another war, especially if the war was between Russia, China, and the United States. If suddenly there was a war between Russia, China, and the United States, I really don't know which side Canada would take. Honestly, I almost think that if I had to guess, I would say probably in a hypothetical war that Canada would probably take China and Russia's side, to be honest. So I'm not gonna sit here and like say, oh yeah, Americans, yeah, totally, Canadians got your back. That's not right. That's not the case. That's not true. Okay? Because honestly, if there was a war between China, Russia, and the United States, I think Canada would probably take China and Russia's side. It's not what I would do. I'm not saying it's what I would do. I'm just saying that this is what Canada would probably do based on what I know about Canada, based on what I've witnessed in Canada, based on what I've seen in Canada. I would probably guess that, and it's not my choice to take Russia and China's side. I'm just telling you that's what I think Canada would do. If there was a war between Russia, China, and the United States, I think Canada would probably take Russia and China's side, and I just think that's just what probably would happen. So, so if there's anyone just coming into the live stream, please feel free to leave your comments. Please feel free to leave your real, honest opinions about the topic.